All right, and then there were two, TJ. Let's catch our breath here. We'll get our second wind, and let's get into the business of UFC 159. The particulars are it's going down Saturday, April 27th, 2013, from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. 10 in the East, 7 in the West, and only on pay-per-view, as Chael Sonnen would say. Talk to me just about it abstractly.
Abstractly, it's not a bad card. It has the potential to be a really good one. Overall, I mean, we've heard it, and it hasn't been really promoted like other ones, and even the shit talking. Listen, I think the two that have been shit talking more, and I think everybody's missing is Belcher and Bisping. Those two guys are fucking hilarious. I mean, going back and forth, and it's. Overall, it's going to be a good card, and I'm excited to see. I'm actually excited to see the Jones and Sonnen fight because I want to see how Sonnen goes in. I really look forward to seeing what his game plan is going to be for this fight.
Well, it's interesting because who would have ever thought that a card involving Chael Sonnen would have the bout that had the third most shit talking as opposed to the most. I mean, Chael's done his, in his words, level best to do some shit talking. But Alan Belcher and Michael Bisping, both shit talking their fight, and Phil Davis and Vinny Magalhaes. I mean, they have their whole fight started on Twitter. Essentially.
I forgot about. You're right.
So I mean, there's definitely been some shit talking not coming from the main event, but this is why people tune in. It's usually for the main events. We have a good one here. Chael Sonnen does his best to dispel all the facts and give you enough bullshit to make you think you're going to watch a good fight. But he is a huge underdog. Do you think that's why this fight isn't getting the sort of attention that it maybe should?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just the water cooler talk when you talk to people, it's, the bets that I've been hearing just through water cooler or talking to just average people are, what's Jones going to beat him? Is it going to be a knockout or a submission? Is it going to be another stand-up submission? Basically, everybody, I think, has written off Sonnen for this fight. I mean, what I've seen. So I think that's where it is. I think majority of the people think that John Jones is just going to run through Sonnen, and that's what makes it not as interesting or that as marketable.
Well, to make it official, not that we're a gambling website. I mean, if you want to get into all that stuff, again, I would reference you to MMA Odds Breaker. Adam Martin, who's been on our show, does that show. But as it stands right now on their website, as of April 26th, John Jones is minus 925 on the money line. That's a huge favorite. So what's the reality of that? I mean, is that what you're expecting? How are you expecting this fight to go?
Minus 900? Are you shitting me?
Yeah, that's a serious number.
That's a lot. That's a big number, man. I don't know. We'd have to pull some stats on that. That might be the biggest one I've heard of all time, number-wise. I mean, that's pretty big. But hey, listen. All right, let's get back to the seriousness. Belfort, Evans, Machida, Jackson, Rua. That's who that kid's fucking beat. Ready for this? Lost to Silva, beat Bisping, barely. Stan, lost to Silva, beat Marquardt. Not a really big comparison. Hasn't fought in 205 since like 2005. He's taller. Jones is taller. He's got a longer reach. He's a great wrestler. He's got submissions. He can stand up. He's got that leg kick that could probably keep you at bay the whole damn fight. That's why I'm interested to see someone come in with a game plan because I don't know what it's going to be. Obviously, his forte is taking you down and ground and pound and trying to look for a submission, but mostly it's ground and pound. I don't see how he's going to be able to control a fight with that leg reach and with that arm reach and Jones being just so shifty and so quick. I have it as Jones. I mean, I can't bet against him right now. You just can't.
I agree, and I mean, there's a lot. Jones has never been taken down in the UFC. I mean, that's insane to even say, but he's never been taken down in the UFC. So, that means a lot to me. If anybody can take him down, it's Chael Sonnen, but, it's not like John Jones has never fought wrestlers. He fought Matt Hamill, fought Ryan Bader, fought Rashad Evans. Rampage, he's a wrestler, but he's a little bit beyond his prime. But, I mean, he's fought some serious guys as well in terms of with a wrestling pedigree. Fought Jake O'Brien. So he's fought some wrestlers, never been taken down. So what does that mean for this fight? I think Chael Sonnen's going to have his hands full, and I think that he's kind of called down a fury here. And unlike some of the other champions in the UFC, the Ben Hendersons and the St. Pierre's of the world, this kid finishes, man. He's got nasty elbows. He throws them on the ground and standing up. He withstood. I just think that he has, for everything that John Jones has in terms of his pride, he's the one guy that I think that really uses his pride to his advantage. I would say 98% of the fighters in the UFC would have tapped to that Vitor Belfort armbar. The kid would not, and he even said in the countdown show, he goes, "I can't control whether or not I win, but I can control whether or not I quit." And he said, if I would have tapped to that armbar, I would have quit. So that's not acceptable to him. So now, I don't know that Chael Sonnen can do to John Jones for 5 rounds what he did to Anderson Silva for 5 rounds. I don't see it. I think that kid just brings too much to the table, and Chael's not a finisher. There's really a lot that kind of that would preclude Chael Sonnen from getting a W here. And Jones even talked about it. He talked about some of the mental aspects of being a champion and all that kind of stuff, and that maybe Chael lacks those things. Now, do you think that maybe Chael is just kind of satisfied with hanging with someone, and he doesn't really see himself as great?
No, ultimately, no. I really do think he sees himself as great. It's just that, we've talked about this before. Like, he's one of those guys that can beat everybody 1 through 10. He could probably beat him, but he just can't beat the champ. Like, he just doesn't rise to that occasion. He did with Silva, but got caught. But also, he got suspended after that fight. The next Silva fight, Silva took him out. It's like he can get to that one spot and he just can't overcome it. And I don't know if that's the mentality of a champion or what that has him inside of him. But I want to touch on something else real quick. I want to jump back because you were talking about the burning inside of Jones and his pride and stuff. If you didn't watch the weigh-in, you need to go back and watch the weigh-in. And this is why I say that, because when he came out, he had a lot of boos. And pretty much he is from that area. And to get that booze, I think he really got pissed off about it, and it probably fueled him a little bit, because if you notice that when he walked off the stage after he bowed, he walked off the stage, through the curtain, through the picture taking, and just fucking was gone. Like, it looked like that bothered the hell out of him. And I think it's stuff like that fuels John Jones to be better. And to me, it said it all over his face. He just went from absolutely being ready to already visualizing the fight at that second. It was just, I haven't seen him look like that on a fighter in a while. And if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it, because maybe I'm off base there, but that's the feeling I got during the weigh-ins.
Well, and, John Jones is, we've talked about it in the past, he's one of those guys, Ben Henderson, George St. Pierre included, who can peak physically and mentally at the same time. He puts a lot of thought into the mental game. He rarely gets caught off track. And it's just, he's just on such another level, dude. That's how you get that minus 900 number. I mean, the thing that he regrets the most in his career right now is going to decision against Rashad Evans. That was a huge disappointment for him. Chael's got some disappointments that are way worse than beating Rashad Evans by decision. Like, I mean, just look, his John Jones' record is just littered with finishes, left and right. I mean, he went to decision against Bonner, and he went to decision against Andre Gusmao, but that was early in his career. That was 2009.
The nastiest one, I think, I don't care what anybody says, that Machida finish, and when he just dropped him after he choked him up standing up, was just said everything. That shit was nasty. Like, you didn't even lay him down. You just fucking dropped him. Done with you. Who's next? I mean,
yeah, and you know what? The confidence that he carries into fights says a lot about who he is. I mean, you got to get to a certain place mentally to just beat the shit out of Shogun, because you idolize Shogun. Everybody used to watch Pride, and if you're into fighting, unless for some reason you didn't like Shogun as a fighter, but I mean, these guys, when you can sit there and beat legends, guys that you at one point idolized, and just leave them just pretty much for dead. I mean, he just knocks these guys, just completely destroys their will, and just leaves them there in a huddled mass. That's you know, that's saying a lot, and you have to get to a place mentally. And I just think that he catches the bad rap, dude, for just having an ego, which a lot of athletes have egos, and I think that he's just listen, man, that's what he has to do to keep the belt, and that's what he has to do.
Yeah, and I think if people look at it, I mean, I think he rubs people the wrong way because he's not very vocal. Like he's not a Chael Sonnen, and he's not, Ben Henderson. He can talk to the crowd. John Jones, because the way he is mentally, can't really portray that to people, and I think that rubs people the wrong way as seeing him as, oh, he's cocky. He thinks he's better than everybody. I don't think that at all. I just think he has a hard time expressing in a good, I shouldn't say in a good way, just expressing the way he feels or what he's about to a point where everybody can understand him. And I think that's one shot that he gets against him, and I think that's why people don't really like him, is because they think ultimately that he's a cocky, he thinks he's better than everybody, and really he's not. He just doesn't know how to really portray the really what the goodness is about him and how it is to be a champion. Because you're right, he does have the mental game, and he does have the skills, and I think he needs to work. Maybe UFC needs to send him some public speaking classes or something to let him talk, or fucking after the fight bring Chael into his locker room and ask him how he does it. Because I think if he does that, because he's getting all the contract, with the Nike, he's got his own shoes. I mean, hell, the kid is a true champion, and I believe he's a role model, just like Chael said. He's a role model for young kids, but I think he needs to express his feelings or his ways in a different way so everybody can understand him.
Well, and how many times have we seen that just in our personal life, where you meet a guy who's cocky and you sort of project onto him what you think he is? I think sometimes fans project onto John Jones. This is what John Jones can't make a joke about his looks or his skills without people going, oh, here comes this cocky son of a bitch again. He's just kidding around. If somebody who was less good looking or less skilled did it, you wouldn't take it as seriously because, obviously, like Chael can get away with saying whatever he wants. To me, it's kind of like we make our minds up about people and we put them in this box, and then they are whoever they are. Like we like Michael Jordan, we don't like Kobe Bryant. When at the end of the day, they're really similar guys. But for whatever reason, when Jordan does it, it rings true. If Jordan yells at a teammate, it's fine. If Kobe Bryant yells at a teammate, he's an asshole. So it's, we just make up our minds. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? We make up our minds about guys, and we project onto them what we think they are, despite whether they're actually that or not.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct on that.
All right, so let's move on to the next fight. Again, another fight with a lot of heat, a lot of shit talking going on. It is Alan the Talent Belcher against Michael the Count Bisping. Talk to me about this fight. What are you expecting to see? And I'll go back real quick. We didn't make an official pick. It's obvious we're both picking John Jones, so we can move on. But let me get your thoughts on the Belcher-Bisping fight.
Listen, I wish Bisping would have took that bet, because I definitely would love to see him get a Johnny Cash tattoo on his fucking arm. That would be classic. If you haven't seen that, please go watch that interview, because that shit is hilarious. How Bisping started the bet, and Belcher kind of took it. And he said, hey, if you want to bet, well, let's call it out. And he made a bet, and it was counter each other. And then, hey, if you can knock me out, it was the Johnny Cash tattoo. Shit's been going back and forth. These two guys just hate each other. That is, and I can't wait to see this fight, because I'm not a huge Bisping fan, but following him on Twitter and seeing some stuff, I like what he represents. I'm not going to lie. He does help the community. He's got a good heart with his fans. It's kind of somebody that you want to follow, but then he has that one point about him that just kind of makes him an asshole. But I kind of like that too. But with this fight, it's just going to be a stand-up. I think those two guys are just going to go at it, and whoever lands that one shot is definitely going to get the knockout. And this could be a knockout of the night right here. possibility.
Well, and he's almost made himself into a sympathetic figure, coming so close to titles and things like that, and not winning them. That despite his shit talking, people are actually starting to like him more than they used to like him. A lot of the stuff, just to give some history on the bets and all that. So the way it went was, the original thing that kicked this off was actually a great line by Bisping. What happened was, it was like 5 years ago. Belcher challenged Bisping to a fight, called him out. And Bisping goes, I don't know why this guy's picking a fight with me. If he wants to pick a fight with somebody, he should pick a fight with a tattoo artist that put that shit tattoo on his arm. So that was really where it all started. And then now certain things have gotten involved, like Alan Belcher's friends with a football player named, I think, Marcus Gilberry, and that guy put up his Phantom car that if Bisping knocked him out in the first round, he'd give him his Phantom. And then Bisping made a video talking about he had a friend who was going to give his Fiat. It was all this craziness. Now, Belcher said that if he wins, Bisping has to get the Johnny Cash tattoo, and if Bisping wins, he'll get the Union Jack, which is the England flag. There's been a lot of shit talking back and forth. These guys legitimately do not like each other. I was talking to somebody recently about the fight. Is it me, or is it just a coincidence that Bisping gets into it with every single guy he fights? I mean, it's like, why do people hate this guy so much?
Yeah, the only one he really didn't even at the end was Brian Stan. I think just because of what Stan was with with the military, I think he kind of respected him ultimately for what Stan did. But you're right, everybody that he fights, he's almost like a Chael Sonnen of sort. Like, he'll shit talk you because if he's gonna fight you and he wants to get in your head and see what you have, and I don't know what urges him to do that, because all the way up till he's gonna fight somebody, the kid is cool as shit, and then all of a sudden he turns that fight mode on and he becomes it's like an asshole sort of type. So I don't know what it gets on his mind, but hey, if that's what gets him fired up, I guess so be it.
And in fairness to him, you really got to give him his props, because he continues to be that way despite getting just blasted by Dan Henderson at UFC 100. You would have thought that had been the end of all the shit talking, but the guy got up off the canvas and wiped his ass and wiped himself off and just went right back to shit talking. So I mean, God bless him, man. Anybody that can take a blasting like that and keep shit talking is okay in my book.
Yeah, he's definitely a shit talker, but hey, it's going to be interesting what these two guys find out, because Bisping has a high rate of landing the strikes. He's up there, and he has takedown, and he has pretty good defense too. And so it's going to be interesting where this fight goes, but ultimately I think it's just going to be stand up, because these two guys just want to beat the shit. And I'm hoping that it's not one of those fights that we talk about, that we hype up, and then either one of them doesn't want to get knocked out, so it's a dull fight. You know what I mean? I hope it's not that type of fight. I hope they go in there ready to fire at all cylinders like they're talking they're going to do, because I think it's going to be a great fight if they do that.
Well, sometimes what will happen with those fights is that the guys that think they're superior to the other guy, they'll stand. And I think both guys think they're, Alan Belcher's like, all I got to do is land one. Bisping's the same way. So I think Bisping's probably the more well-rounded fighter, although, Belcher's got some skills. So the only question that's left to ask is, who you got?
I think, sorry for the pause, but I'm really trying to think of who's going to win this. I think if Bisping can get it to the ground, honestly, I think he can win the fight. But Belcher has some good hands, and he was on a win streak. He was on a 4-win streak, fight win streak, until he came across Akami. But ultimately, I'm gonna have to go with I'm going with Belcher. I think he has that one hitter quitter, and we all know from Bisping's experience, if he takes one on the chin, it could be lights out for him. So I'm gonna go with Belcher on this one.
That's true. I agree that Belcher definitely could knock out Bisping, whereas I think Belcher could get a flat KO on Bisping. Bisping can only probably hope for a TKO. But I'm taking Bisping. I think that it's more so his destiny to beat a guy like Alan Belcher than it is vice versa. I don't think Alan Belcher is on Bisping's level. I think he's about where he is. He's the 10th best fighter in the 185-pound division. and I think Bisping's probably 2 or 3. So for me, I just think Bisping has too much. I think that if he gets his his ass wobbled at all by Alan Belcher, he'll take him down. So I don't think he'll stand with him. So I think he just has more that he's bringing to the table, and that'll lead him to victory. All right, now speaking of a couple of guys that are probably going to stand and bang, let's talk about Czech Congo and Roy Nelson.
Yes, big country against Czech Congo, and it's definitely these probably two guys are probably going to stand and bang. And if you look at the stats, Czech Congo has strikes landed per minute. He's got a 3.5. He's got a 58 striking accuracy. Big country is just finding the strike. Like he said, he didn't even know he had power and wants to do it feels good because now he has another weapon. Great on the ground. When he does go on the ground, I mean, usually those last fights have been all standing up and fighting toe to toe. And he beat Matrone, Herman. He lost to Verdum, and it's definitely going to be a stand up battle. Congo has the reach on him, but the fucking big country has a goddamn. I think he has a GMC truck in his chin because you just can't fucking break it. I mean, it's hard to put a guy like that down, and Congo's been beat up before, and I think it's going to be a good stand-up game. They're going to throw punches. It's going to be a fight, and probably one of the better fights on the card.
Yeah, both of these guys, for the most part, have beaten who they're supposed to beat, and lost to guys that are high level, like you said. Country's lost to Doom, lost to Mir, lost to Dos Santos. Way back when he lost to Jeff Monson and Arlovsky, but even at the time, those guys were pretty legit dudes. Congo's similar. He's pretty much lost to some similar guys. He's lost to Mark Hunt, lost to Mir, lost to Velasquez. So these guys are right. I honestly would have rather seen Mark Hunt fight Roy Nelson, but I'm not going to take away Mark Hunt's shot at Dos Santos. So I'm really interested in this fight. Again, I think that that Nelson can knock out Congo, and I don't think that Congo can knock out Nelson. So at the end of the day, I think they're going to stand, and should Congo be a little wary and get wobbled by Nelson and decide to go to the ground, Nelson's way better on the ground. So I'm taking Roy Nelson. Who you got?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Roy Nelson, and I would love for him to get him down and let everybody see Big Country's ground game, because if you're a newer fan to the UFC. The kid has some skills on the ground, man. Let's not forget that he's a jiu-jitsu fighter. And he might not look it, but don't fucking judge a book by its cover, because if he gets you on the ground, your ass might be tapping pretty quick. So I'm interested to see that. But I'm going to go with Big Country, and I think it's going to be probably by a knockout, though.
Well, one of the more surprising but pretty famous things about Big Country is that he actually beat Frank Mir in a grappling contest. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And we're both taking Big Country. I think that let me advance the discussion a little bit and just ask you from the school of who I got to screw around here to get a drink. Who's Big Country got to beat to get a title shot?
Dana White.
Once you get on that shit list, man, it's a wrap.
I'm telling you, dude. He's been in the doghouse. Dana's asked him to lose weight. I don't think I think Dana sees him as an overweight, mullet-wearing country boy, like his name is, and he doesn't really take him serious. He honestly is going to have to beg and plead or do something with Dana White to get that title shot because you're right. He got on a shit list, and I think he could beat the number 1 contender, the number 2 contender, and the son of a bitch, we'd still see him fight number 15. Until he does something phenomenal, or I don't even know what it's going to take, honestly. But I think if he wins tomorrow, he's definitely in line to get a title shot, in my opinion.
Well, we'll see, because it's probably something we're going to talk to Larry Pepe about when we have him on. But I'm interested to just see how the different divisions are handled. If you're going to sit here and tell me that the winner of TJ Grant and Gray Maynard deserves to fight Ben Henderson, Roy Nelson doesn't deserve to fight Cain Velasquez, it's a little insane to me in terms of what they've accomplished. So
yeah, absolutely. Shit list, Dana shit list.
There you go. All right, up next, again, one of those shit talking fights, which is interesting because Vinny Magalhaes trains with Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
And Phil Davis has actually accused Vinny of hanging out with the cool kids now, and sort of now he's a shit talker all of a sudden because he's hanging out with Chael Sonnen. But one thing Vinny is he's a high level jiu-jitsu fighter. He's a world champion currently. And but Phil Davis is no slouch on the ground himself. He's submitted some guys. One of the big things, you look at Phil Davis and you say, well, what is it with this guy? He's not too much of a dynamic guy. He lost to Rashad. He's not that great. Why do we keep having him in the top 10 in the 205-pound division discussion? The reason why is because one thing that people forget a lot about Phil Davis is he tapped Alexander Gustafsson. So how do you see this fight playing out? I mean, obviously Phil has great wrestling, but does he want to go into that world with Magalhaes?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, with Vinny, I mean, he is a great wrestler, and he can definitely take Vinny down. That's not going to be an issue, I don't think. But does he want to? Because you get Vinny on the ground and being world class jiu-jitsu, I don't know if you want to go there. I mean, because you can end up in some awkward situations where you're finding your ass tapping out. So it's going to be interesting to see how Phil reacts, and if he's going to take him down, and how he reacts to it on the ground, because I think that's his forte. That he really likes to wrestling, and he can submit you, but when you're going against a world class, it's a little bit different story. So it's going to be interesting if he's just going to try and keep it up and work on his stand-up skills on this fight, because ultimately I don't see how, if he takes to the ground, Vinny might take control of the fight.
Well, I wonder what's going to come into play in terms of the fact that, yes, Vinny is Magalhaes is a world champion jiu-jitsu practitioner, but the thing about Phil Davis is he chokes guys out in weird ways. Yeah. He does anaconda chokes. He does Tim Boach. It's funny, they credit it with calling it the Mr. Wonderful, but it was that one arm. Remember he fought Boach? He did that one arm Kimura where he just kind of like, he damn near arrested the guy. He just put his hand behind his back and with one arm just kind of, ripped it to shreds. So if you're a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, can you prepare for stuff like that? Or, obviously, Phil Davis isn't going to show Vinny Magalhaes the first anaconda choke he's ever seen, but I don't know, man. Is his wrestling enough to pass whatever Vinny's got going on?
I don't know. I guess that's the big question. Actually, that's $1 million question on for Saturday night. Is he got enough? Has he got enough skills once he gets to the ground against somebody of this magnitude of submission? So and Vinny's no small dude either. I mean, if you look at the comparison, he's actually taller than Phil Davis, listed at 6'3", and he's going to be 205, of course. But the reach is only 4 inches. I mean, 4 inches is 4 inches, but it's going to be interesting if they stand up, because the reach and the height is almost damn near the same. So it's going to be interesting how Phil reacts once he takes him down, or if he can take him down, how he reacts on the ground. That's where all is going to lie. Does he have the skills when he gets to the ground to be able to work it?
Phil's an interesting guy because, he'll be the first to kind of tout his accomplishments in terms of comparing him to the rest of the 205-pound division, but he says he doesn't get hit a lot, and it's not just because he takes guys down. He feels like he's good on his feet. I kind of disagree, but, you can't argue with the fact that the guy doesn't get hit a lot, and he doesn't spend all his time on the ground, so he's doing something right on the feet. So, I don't know, man. For me, I just think I'm going to go ahead and give my prediction. I'm going to take Phil Davis. I think he's just got too much for Vinny.
Yeah, I think so. I think when he gets to the ground, I think he can probably maybe do enough to win the fight. But also, I'd like to see him stand up. So, I'd like to see more of a stand-up game in this fight. So, I think I'm gonna have to go with Phil Davis on this one as well.
And then maybe
I don't know, man. Now I'm thinking about it. With all the shit coming out, where's his head going to be? I mean, now we're playing a lot of factors. I know I'm getting deep into this. But with that shit that just came out publicly about him, and even it came out and still at the weigh-ins, he didn't really get booed or anything like I thought he might have, just because of what came out. but still, that has to be weighing on heavy on it. And I believe even he has this fight, and then he goes to court in the next 2 weeks about it. I think it's like May 7th, maybe. I read that somewhere. Uh, don't quote me on that, but I think I read that somewhere. So, he's got that on the back of his mind. So, is he going to be able, is he the type of fighter that can put his adversities outside the ring aside for when he steps inside? Can he be the true fighter that he can be? That's going to be the question. And I'm saying Phil Davis is going to win, but now, man, I might pull back a little bit. I'm leaning that way, but I don't know how he's going to react with everything going on.
Yeah, like I said, I'll stick with him. I think he's able to pass Vinny's guard and kind of stay out of trouble, and he's light years ahead of him on the feet, in my opinion. I don't know about light years because he's not that advanced, but Vinny's a ground fighter. So, all right, I'm taking Davis. You're taking Davis. But you're right. I would, if I were a betting man, I would probably stay away from this bet just because everything Phil Davis has going on. All right, from the next up from the school of Can I Fight My Clone? Pat Bam Bam Healy is fighting Jim Miller. These guys fight a lot alike, and they both have some credentials. They both have fought some tough guys. One, do you have a strong enough MMA knowledge to differentiate these guys? And if so, how do you do so?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much the same lined up. I mean, even at the stats are damn near the exact same. But Pat Healy has a little bit better takedowns, but Miller on the ground is fierce. I mean, look what he did to Joe in his last fight. He worked the ground, and he's a trooper, man, because he lays it out there in that Joe fight. He just, those two dudes just went to war. So, but pretty much these two guys, you can't find two other guys that probably can match up just like this, because it's pretty much the same down the middle. So it's going to be interesting. Miller's got submissions. Healy, he's got the hands, and so does Miller, though. So it's pretty much an average fight. It's almost a pick 'em on this one. If we're talking about staying away from bets, this is one of the bets I think you could probably stay away with. And Healy's coming over, and he's on he's the last 5 fights he's won, and Miller has two losses in his last two, Henderson and Diaz. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really good fight, I think.
I think it will be too, and I guess one thing I want to pose to you is before the kind of the dissolution of Strikeforce and the injury to Gilbert Melendez, Pat Healy was actually supposed to fight Gilbert Melendez for the belt in Strikeforce. So my question is, do you put that as a feather in Healy's cap, or do you just kind of look at it and say, well, the roster wasn't all that deep in Strikeforce, that's why Healy got the shot. We've seen it. Thompson fight Melendez enough. Or do you think that Healy actually earned that fight? Or, I mean, do you feel like he's a championship-level contender? Because the guys coming over from Strikeforce, it's anybody's guess how they get ranked based on what they did in Strikeforce. Some guys are right in line for title shots. Other guys have to wait. How much stock do you put into the fact that Healy had a title shot pending prior to Strikeforce going away?
Well, he was going on that win streak ever since he lost to Josh Thompson over in Strikeforce. He went on a win streak, so basically, he deserved that title shot in the Strikeforce that he was about to get. And so when he moves over, it's a little bit of different way, because that class is kind of stacked. So you gotta find your place. And just like Josh Thompson did when he came over, he definitely put his stamp on the division, by knocking out Diaz. So Healy coming over is going to have to make that kind of a remarkable stamp in this division if he wants to be heard. If he wants to get back up in the title contention, he's going to have to make some kind of statement with this fight.
All right, so the only question left to ask is who you got?
I think I think I'm gonna go with Miller on this one, just based off their last fights, and the talent that these two guys have fought. Healy's lost to Thompson. His 2 losses have been some pretty tough guys. So I think Miller has the probably the more experience with that type of caliber of fighter, and I'm gonna go with Miller.
I'm gonna go with Miller too, hometown guy, Jersey guy. I think that he is gonna, like I said, when you look up and down his resume, he's only lost to studs. Healy's had some disappointments. He's had, I think, like 16 losses. So that in the words of Floyd Mayweather, that means there's 16 ways to beat him. So Miller's a little his record's a little cleaner than that. So I just don't see when I look up and down Pat Healy's resume, and not that you can determine everything by someone's resume. I just don't see the type of high-level fighters that Jim Miller's fought, and then factor in uh, first fight in the cage or in the octagon, I should say. I think it's just too much for Pat Healy to overcome. All right, so moving on, let's take a look at the prelims in terms of just overall. Is there anything that you see on the prelims that you like?
With the, you know, yeah, I mean one of my favorite fighters, just because he's a warrior. Uh, Leonard Garcia is on the card against Cody McKenzie. I love Leonard Garcia. He hasn't had the greatest winning streak or anything lately, but the kid brings it every time. And uh, Austin Mendez, he's won, but he brings it, man. He brings it, and he makes you better. He makes whoever he's fighting better. The Cody McKenzie, I could have probably. I'm not weighing one way or the other on that kid, but I like to see Leonard Garcia because fucking brings it every single time. Uh, Other than that, it's you know, oh, the Sheila Gaff and the Sarah McMahon fight. That's going to be good. Women lately have just been producing some badass fights, and here's another one we got on this card, and so I'm excited to see that one too.
So does the way the women have fought so far speak more to the fact this will be the first fight that's a women's fight that's on the prelims, and the first fight that's really not for anything? The Tate Zagano fight was to host the Ultimate Fighter with Rousey. Obviously, the Rousey Carmouche fight was to hold the belt. This is the first women's fight. It's not really, these girls got a lot to prove. Obviously, they're on the prelims, but do you think that the women are really that talented, or they're just fighting this hard because they feel like they have something to prove?
No, honestly, I'm gonna go back to because I've been watching women's, fighting for a while, and even if you want to go back to Strike Force, they put on great matches. Uh, I've seen some, in the Victor fights, and those girls that came over from overseas that are getting pulled in Victor, those girls uh, have put on great fights. Of course, you're going to get your couple boring, but moreover, so these girls, these women, I shouldn't say girls, these women are can put it down. They're real contenders. They're real fighters, and it's just no. It's not a coincidence that we're seeing great fights from them. They put on great fights.
All right, and I also want to give some props to Brian Caraway because he is not content to sit around cashing Misha Tate's checks. He is trying to get one of his own on a short notice. He's fighting Johnny Bedford. I mean, this is about as short a notice as it gets. He was told, I think, Monday that he was
Yeah.
going to have this fight. So, do you give the kid props and say kudos to you, Mr. Caraway, for having big balls and putting Misha Tate's purse down for a second? Or is this silly to take a fight on such short notice?
No, I mean if you want to get hurt, you step in, right? I think who people with Dana, people who take fight on short notices, especially this short, you chalk one up in his good column, and unless he goes out and gets knocked out in 7 seconds, other than that, if you put on a decent fight or even if you win, you're on his good gracious, and you probably can call. You'll be called up again and probably quicker if you don't get really injured in it or whatever. It seems like people who take fights on short notice, and if they win or they lose, he catapults them up to whenever they're well, they get put on the card again to make some more money because you treat him well, he treats you well. So good for him.
All right, I'll put you on the spot. It's a little pre-finish strong, and then we get into my finish strong. Give me some predictions for bonus money. Who you got? Fight of the night.
Fight of the night. Hmm. Alan Belcher and Bisbing. I'll take that as a fight of the night.
All right.
And that could be, nope, fight of the night.
Okay, who you got KO tonight?
I'm probably going to go with KO the night. John Jones.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, and submission of the night. Spinning elbow?
Spinning elbow.
Oh, I like it. And then submission of the night.
Jim Miller.
Really?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go a little bit off the beaten path of mine. I'm gonna go fight of the night is Jim Miller and Pat Healy. Okay. I'm gonna go just because I think Miller's better, but I think Healy has more to prove. I'm gonna go knockout of the night is going to be Roy Nelson, and submission of the night is gonna be Bones Jones. I just think that I don't know, man. I think he wants to put one on Chael, but I just think that he's so superior to Chael submission-wise that it's a foregone conclusion. All right, I'm going to go ahead and roll into my finish strong, and then we'll go ahead and shut this thing down. All right, my finish strong this week is going out to George St. Pierre. I have been a George St. Pierre fan for a long time, and I am not. I will continue to be a George St. Pierre fan. What will make me not be a George St. Pierre fan is this continued business about Anderson Silva. George, either fight this guy or don't, but I'm done talking about it. And you're the reason why we're still talking about it. Because whenever you're asked about this fight, you really don't take much of a stance. You kind of, you waver. If he does this, all these stipulations. If I go to 85, I'm going to have to stay there. And then there's Johnny Hendricks. And if you want to fight him, fight him. If you don't want to fight him, don't fight him. Let us move on. If you're tired of answering the questions, then for once answer it definitively. If you want to just spend the rest of your career at 170 pounds, then just say that. And then I promise you people will stop asking. All right, that's my finish strong. What's yours?
Chael Sonnen. I love the guy to death. I even like his spills that he brings over from wrestling. But my friend, if you lose this fight, you need to take a couple steps back and concentrate on what you really love doing, because I honestly think you love fighting. You need to look at how you talk and lay off the gas of the shit talking a little bit and go back and reevaluate yourself. If you take a beating, you definitely got to do that, because everybody's kind of on the verge of this getting tired, and you're talking in the title fights, and it shows by the publicity of this one. So, Chael, I love you, buddy, but let's pump the brakes a little bit.
And it's interesting you would say that, because I wrote this week on Cage Wall about Chael Sonnen, and it was the title of the article was "Talk is Cheap. Will Chael Sonnen's legacy forever be his mouth?" So I'll pose that question to you. Do you think Chael Sonnen ultimately his legacy will be his mouth?
I honestly believe he is a good fighter. Like I said, he can get up to the 2 or 3 spot and he can beat guys. He can't get over that hump of beating the champion. And to say that, I mean, he has a lot of fights under his belt. He's fought a lot. He doesn't back down from anybody. Hell, I think if you give him a fight in heavyweight, he'd probably gain enough weight to do it. So he doesn't back down anything, and that's one thing I like about him, is because he'll fight whoever, whenever, whenever. So that's one thing I like about him. But with the mouth situation, even though I love it, there's a time to pump the brakes and to really look at yourself, because if you want to be a champion, you got to act like a champion. You got to get the mental aspect and do it. So I don't think that will hold him back, because honestly, I really do think he's a good fighter.
I think he's a good fighter too, but I think that it's weird, man. It's like, the shit talking's what's made him all this money, but it's ultimately like, he sets the bar so high with all the shit talking that never can live up to it. And I think it's weird, man. I think the shit talking does him a disservice as a fighter. Kind of makes things harder on him, but makes his pocketbook fatter. So what are you gonna do?
Yep.
All right, so that does it for this week. Look, stay tuned to the Hot Cage podcast. We got a lot of things coming down in the near future. This Sunday when we do the post-fight show, we're gonna try our damnedest to have Larry Pepe on from Pro MMA Now Radio. That's really a lot that we want to talk to Larry about. And again, Sunday was when we're going to do our post-fight show. We'll talk to you about all these fights, what actually happened. We got a lot of things coming up. We're going to try and get out to some events. We're going to try and do more work with Cage Wall. We're going to try and get to some of the local MMA spots here in Arizona and talk to some of the fighters here. We got big things on the horizon. We're trying to take over the world. So pay very close attention to us in the coming months. TJ, enjoy the fights, brother, and I'll talk to you on Sunday.
All right, you too, John.
All right, so for TJ Craig, this is John Franklin, ending the Hot Cage podcast and saying, as always, keep your hands up and your chin down. This is the Hot